Outlander, and there was all this buzz. I mean, obviously it's coming from a successful book series, but did you have any idea the show was going to be as big as it was?
I was very hopeful, because it was a successful book series and there were pre-existing fans. We went out and did an event for fans in New York City months before the show was broadcast. In fact, I think it was a year before the show was broadcast, and I brought just some concept art, and we hadn't cast a lot of it yet, and it was just very rough. But we packed that house, and those people that came to that event were passionate and thrilled and excited, and it was amazing because there was no show yet. There were just the books, but the fans turned out. So it gave me hope right from the beginning that if we did this right, it could be a phenomenon, because there were literally millions of people who loved these books. And if we did the book adaptation right, they would come to the show. And that's what happened.
The show would be nothing without the chemistry between your two leads. I mean, that's so key. Talk a little bit about when you knew you had the right people, and sort of talk about that casting process, because it must have been so daunting going in trying to figure out, the two right people.
Yeah, it was tricky. At the beginning, I said, we're going to cast Claire first because she'll be the easiest to find, because she's a smart 20th century British woman, and there's lots of them, and we'll find her quickly. But Jamie's going to be tough. How do you find the king of men, this heroic figure, this Scot, that no one, that's going to be the one that kills us. And of course, it was exactly the opposite. We found Sam. He was the first cast member. We just saw his tape, and we went, oh my God, there he is. It was just like, boom. And then it was the great hunt for Claire, and we read a lot of actresses. We saw a lot of tape. And it was tricky. It was really trying to find a very special quality. I always said that, I wanted Claire had to be really smart, and you had to see her thinking, and, she had to be this really capable, interesting person, and she had to marry up really well with Sam. And so we didn't find her until very late in the game, and she taped her own audition and sent it in, and it was discovered, and we put her and Sam together for what's called a chemistry test, where you put them both on a camera and just let them play a scene together to see how it feels. But we just were like pretty certain from her tape that she was the one. And then when we saw the chemistry test, we were convinced. And once we cast her, she was on a plane to Scotland within a day and shooting like 2 days later. I mean, we were so close to the beginning of production. It was really starting to scare everyone. Oh my God, we have to cast this role.
That's crazy that you were that close.
Yeah, it was very crazy.
I can't imagine also the network must have been on your back. Like, are you effing kidding me? You need to be filming.
They were worried too. But the thing, when you're casting a pilot, the network's right there with you. The network and the studio and the producers, we're all in the throes of it, and we're all struggling to find it. So we all have to agree. So it wasn't like we were just off doing our thing and then would tell them. They were part and parcel of the whole conversation. So they knew. They were like, oh my God, we've got to find somebody.
It's based on obviously so many books. How did you figure out, in terms of, did you go in to the network when you were pitching it and say, this is what I'm envisioning for 5 years, this is what I'm envisioning for multiple seasons? Or were you sort of just like, how were those conversations early on?
In the original pitch, I pretty much said, here's what the pilot story is. And I could kind of pitch them the basic of the pilot, because I had that pretty much in my head of what that was going to be. And then I gave them a sketch of the first season generally. And I just said, and it's going to be sort of a book per season, and we'll keep that going. And I left them a stack of books to read, which they actually did. And then they picked up the show because they kind of saw the potential, and they could see how well this would lay out into an ongoing series.
I know that for people that aren't current on the show, what can you tease people about what's coming up and then what's going on in the development process in terms of, with everything shut down and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, coming up, as we go forward, people who saw this last season, the 5th season, saw that we were already starting to pull from certain things from book 6 and other books in the series. We've always been sort of free to kind of play around with some of the chronology and borrow things from different books. So we're not, perfect about a book a season, and we'll continue that going forward. I mean, the large arc that's still defining where we are is we're in the New World, we're in the American colonies, and the American Revolution is getting closer and closer. So that's like a big thing that's going to be, moving front and center the further that we get into season 6.
If I'm not mistaken, there's been talk about an Outlander spinoff. What's the status of that?
We're still talking about it. Starz is interested, and we're definitely in conversations. Sony and Starz are in conversations about a spin-off series. Yeah.
Do you guys? Is it one of these things where you're still figuring out what that can be, or do you sort of have an idea but you're not saying?
Yeah, we have more than one idea. We have a couple of ideas, and we're just we're still an internal conversation, so we're not really prepared to go out and say what it is.